After one of the most interesting, most enthralling, most tragic years in Formula One motor racing, the checkered flag had finally fallen and a winner had been crowned. When Keke Rosberg lifted his championship trophy, oh crap, spoiler alert, it was a moment of pure elation. Despite the Renaults and the Ferraris around him clearly being faster, he had conquered all and beaten the odds. And that was fitting, considering it was done here, in Las Vegas, Nevada. At least, in theory it was. But in reality, no one turned up that day. The grandstand somehow more empty than races in the pandemic, and it kinda typified Formula One in Las Vegas. It should have been something, but instead, after 2 years of running, the event was over and the Grand Prix circus would not return. But you clicked on this video, and you know what happened. Since that time, they've become even more money hungry and even more keen to fleece every single soul that bears eyes upon it. I'm talking about Las Vegas and Formula One, obviously. After the Caesars Palace Grand Prix crashed and burned into the ground back in 1982, 2022 saw the announcement of the all-new Las Vegas Grand Prix. After years of speculation and nigh on desperation to make it happen, Bernie Ecclestone's wet dream of a race on the Las Vegas Strip would finally come to fruition. I don't ever want to repeat those words again. And so, here we are. Most of you are probably watching this video on the eve of the inaugural race, the 2023 Las Vegas Grand Prix, and a big question to kick it all off is, how did we get here? Well, back in the 1980s, F1 Supremo Bernie Ecclestone was hell-bent on getting the sport to return to this town. Despite the humongous failure of the previous event that had average facilities, very few fans in attendance, and a track layout that somehow managed to be both physically demanding and boring at the same time. Right up until the early to mid-2010s, Formula One was looking to add more American races to the calendar. All those proposals kept on falling apart, but a race in Las Vegas was still on the agenda, with Bernie saying that they were ready to go, and it would be on the Strip, for sure. This was all talk, of course, but when Formula One was bought by Liberty Media, and Ecclestone was told to retreat to his Brazilian farm before the tax officers could come knocking, integral changes were made to the way the sport was promoted. The popularity of F1 exploded, and obviously, we know where a big bulk of that came from. Not that there was anything wrong with it, but what it did mean was that after 11 million years of trying, Formula One was finally popular in the United States of cheese. A new race was brought in the form of the Miami Grand Prix to run alongside the United States one in Austin, Texas. But a third race in the country? Well, yeah, they tried that. They tried it back in 1982. It didn't work, but they tried it. Things were different now, it must be said. And seeing as how they knew that there'd be people willing to fork out money for it, promoters and Formula One themselves knew exactly where to put that third race. So by early 2022, the race was announced, and in that time, Formula One have almost gone out of their way to hype this event up as being the biggest thing on the face of the planet. Bigger even than the Super Bowl. And the track certainly catches the eye. Everything about this event looks awesome, but getting this event up and running wasn't exactly smooth sailing. Firstly, there was the issue of selling tickets. It was immediately apparent that the promoters decided, meh, to hell with the peasants. GA tickets were going for $500. Grandstand tickets for just the Sunday went for between $1,155 to $1,760. And those that wanted to be there for the whole weekend were close to forking out $3,000. They were even selling tickets to days where there was no on-track action and general admission tickets to places where viewing the cars was not a possibility. But hey, the majority of those tickets sold, so good for them. Even the casinos that surround the track had decided to cash in on all of this. The Bellagio sold a 3-day luxury package, which included VIP tickets, gourmet food made by personal chefs, exclusive access to private viewing decks, and a 25% controlling stake in the Haas Formula One team. Probably, this was being sold for $12,000, but hey, them's rookie numbers. Resorts World was selling their own hospitality package that included all of this that you see here. What did it cost? Oh, I'm glad you asked. $888,000. So this, or a 10% deposit for a house. Of course, while this is all very well and good, 1 week out from the Grand Prix, there was still a lot of tickets that were not sold. And in the days leading up to the race, a bit of desperation started to seep in as the prices for those tickets started to drop like an anvil. Some of those prices being almost 60% below what they first were when they were initially sold. But what do you expect? Where you could fly to Europe to attend a race for cheaper than one that's on your doorstep in the land of 1,000 titty bars. The local hotel owners too have had to drop their rates. However, the special $15 European surcharge implemented in cab services will still be in effect. Sure, America could eradicate their tipping culture like the rest of the world does, and perhaps have its citizens paid fairly. But we don't have time for rational solutions, goddammit. Vegas has a reputation of milking every last cent of everyone that goes into the city. As the saying goes, the house always wins. I guess that's true here too. The freaking irony. But hey, at least it'll be sunny over there, right? Oh yeah, the race is being held at night, more specifically, very late at night, with the race starting at 10 PM local time and qualifying starting at midnight. So for all you night owls out there growing tired of late night infomercials and blow-up dolls, you'll now have something else to watch. But at least it'll be warm, right? With it being out in the middle of the damn desert and all. Quite a few people in the F1 paddock were guessing that we're going to be on for Qatar levels of heat. It appeared that Neville Chamberlain had risen from the grave because all that talk was S-tier levels of wrong. It's expected to be bitterly cold for the race, which will be nice for all those that turn up with a tank top and $300 board shorts. So how would these temperatures affect the on-track action? Well, it may actually be a good thing. With Max Verstappen running away with the championship and making everyone look like a fool, it's making even the most staunch fans of the Flying Dutchman bored. I mean, let's face it, we'd all like there to be close racing on track, and here, in Las Vegas, we might get that. The cold temperatures could throw the race into chaos, with longer warm-up periods for the tyres, with a track surface that will not provide the grip that they'd want, and that's not even half of the grip problems. Over in Australia, for instance, running alongside Formula 1, there is Formula 2, Formula 3, Supercars, and Porsche Carrera Cup on the cards. All of these support categories lay rubber down on the track and helps grip it up over the course of the weekend. In Las Vegas, however, do you know how many support categories there are on the card? That's right, Dora the Explorer. 0. So with nothing else running around there this weekend, F1 cars will be the only ones laying rubber down to try and grip up what is already a very green track with new tarmac all over the place. And that's provided no red flags happen, which, I mean, come on. And that's not to mention the fact that the rain could very well wash away everything and leave the drivers to start from scratch. So yeah, the teams will also have their work cut out for them to make sure their cars and drivers survive the race. Sure, Formula 1 cars have run in some pretty frosty conditions, but in a competitive environment, well, that's a whole nother story. With parc fermé conditions and to want to not compromise the car's performance, teams may find themselves in no man's land. Or the dense air brought on by these conditions could increase drag on all cars but the Red Bulls, and we end up with the most dominant win in the history of wins. The possibilities are endless. But hey, let's talk about the track itself. When it came to designing this thing, the task was given to exactly who you would expect. Tilke, the same design team F1 have been using for the last 8,000 years. But the man leading the project, Herman Tilke's son Carsten, knew that designing this thing was going to be anything but simple. Certain design criteria had to be fulfilled, which included a section that ran along the Las Vegas Strip. Permits for other road usage had to be acquired, the surrounding casinos had to be happy with their gardens being blocked off for hours at a time, and there were aspirations for a brand new permanent pit building to be built. Tilke drew up 31 different layout variations that could have been used, but ultimately, this was the one that they settled on. A 17-turn layout that weaved through the heart of Vegas. It included the strip and had a fully dedicated section of racetrack that would serve as the pit straight. It completely dwarfed the layout used back in the 80s in the parking lot of Caesar's Palace. The reaction by most F1 fans upon seeing this track layout, however, was, "What the hell is this crap?" And it wasn't even the final design. A chicane was added in next to the sphere to give the illusion of complexity. I mean, at face value, this is as simple a layout as you'd ever see for a Formula 1 track. It largely goes against the characteristics we're normally used to seeing. As some have alluded to, it kinda looks like
Spider Pig does whatever a Spider Pig does.
Well, hopefully it doesn't produce as much crap as it did. Of course, the sight of F1 cars screaming down the strip would be a spectacle to behold, you must admit, especially when they hit the brakes at the end of that straight. Brakes which, along with the tyres, would have cooled down considerably given the straight is longer than a Fast and Furious airstrip. So, on lap 1 especially, they would have no brakes and no tyres, heading into what is one of the heaviest braking zones on the calendar. Still, the chaos and wanton destruction would be exciting for those on the footbridges that traverse over the racetrack, right? Oh no! They thought of that. Along all of these bridges, you'll find plastic screening covering the glass to ward off any potential freeloaders. Seeing the race for free? With your own eyes? Not happening, bruh. When people began trying to peel off that stuff, fencing was then put up, thus turning the bridges into a hallway from a Panamanian prison. Needless to say, none of this cosmetic surgery placed upon the strip has made many residents overly happy, a few even saying that it had been ruined by the malarkey. Depending upon who you talk to, this event is either loved or despised, or in a lot of cases, the attitude is more one of meh. For most locals, this event will just come and go, but the disruptions for weeks on end is making time pass like a kidney stone for them. Then again, that's kind of the case with every street circuit ever made. Ever. Liberty Media's CEO came out to apologize to the locals for the interruption, although whether he actually meant it or not, I'll leave that up to you to decide. But it's not even just the locals. Drivers such as Max Verstappen have come out to say that they are there more for the show than the race itself, judging by the layout of the circuit.
It's true, but he shouldn't say it.
So, not exactly smooth sailing. And yeah, sure, they've sold virtually all the tickets for the inaugural event, but so did the Caesars Palace Grand Prix, supposedly, and then that fell apart just 12 months later. There's no guarantee in any of this. The people running this event need to tread carefully, because if they raise their prices for next year's race, like they did for Miami, there's a good chance that they're gonna struggle to sell a lot of those tickets, now that the allure of the first year has come and gone. And especially if Max Superman's the field again next year. But I wouldn't worry about it too much, because greed has never been a problem with the sport, right? Right? Oh yeah, there are a couple of other things. The track was inspected and approved by the FIA at the 11th hour. The live opening ceremony was actually 30 minutes behind, and the pit exit is, shall we say, close to the racing line. But initially, we never got a chance to find out how close, because free practice 1 came to an end after only 9 minutes, thanks to a loose manhole cover that destroyed the chassis of both Carlos Sainz's Ferrari and Esteban Ocon's Alpine. The second practice session was delayed by 2 hours from midnight to 2 a.m. whilst they repaired the track. It was then delayed again, with fans being told that come 1:30 a.m. they'd have to vacate the grounds due to logistical concerns. It was then delayed again to 2:30 a.m. This was an absolute f***ing shambles, and yes, Toto Wolff, I will dare call it that, because unlike you, I would prefer not to bull about the safety of the drivers, the marshals that allow the racing to happen at all, and the fans trackside who paid $11 million to be there. Or is this that new standard that you talk about? Alright, calm down, Josh. Calm down. But hey, credit where credit is due. They did end up repairing the track and did allow for the on-track action to resume that night. So, someone buy them an ice cream. Throughout the course of the weekend, there'll be no support racing on the card. Formula 1 will be the sole source of entertainment on track and will therefore be the only ones laying rubber down on the brand new track. But imagine if it were to rain before the race and were to wash all that grip away. You'd be left with a track greener than goose where slipstreaming is OP. You are gonna have some mighty interesting racing going on. Either that or the biggest clown show you'd ever seen in your life, where chaos ensues, big names drop out, and Sir Lancelot picks up his maiden Grand Prix win. They say that here in Sin City, the house always wins. But if that extreme case scenario happens, I would say that we all kind of win. Yeah, this Grand Prix is a pure money-milking exercise, and Formula 1 desperately needs a race on the African continent. But if the demons of the 1980s could be buried, and if it can help promote the sport in any way, then that's not too much of a bad thing. Right? And hey, another silver lining? Bernie Ecclestone will finally have his dream realized of having a race on the Las Vegas Strip. Or so you'd think. I swear, he may have done a lot for the sport, but Old Man River has no idea what he wants sometimes.